Hello, this is Reb Yeshua again, Chaim Yeshua, and I'm here to start doing Pirkei Avos. Even if it's just a little bit, I want to start doing one segment at a time and fully discuss something, because everything in Pirkei Avos is something that everybody should take personally with them. I was advised by rabbis many times to learn more Talmud, and it's very hard to just learn Gemara, so therefore I'm doing something simple that the Botniks got me. Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers. It's in commemoration to Rabbi Gavriel and Rivka Holtzberg. They were rabbis that were killed by terrorists, and in their memory and in their honor, they made this special edition of Pirkei Avos. I'm trying to do this on TikTok, but it's not the appropriate thing. I don't want to be on a timer. Okay. I'm going to go back to that one I was doing because it was just really interesting. I'm doing it, by the way, I'm doing this in random order. Doing this just for the sake of learning, not because you have to do it every week, but I find that when I learn because I want to learn, it ends up being a lot more interesting than when I'm forced to do it. So I'm going to do this Mishna just because I find it interesting and important. Okay. Here's the Mishna. Rabbi Yanai Oimer Ein Biyadenu Loi Mishalvas Harshalim Ve'af Loi Miyisoireh. Hatzadikim Rabbi Masya ben Charash Oimer Have Makdim Bishloim Kol Adam Vehave Zanav La'arayos Ve'al Tehi Roish La Shualim. Yeah. I just chose to do this because very often in my life, I don't know if it's just me, I always thought of this situation, and let me explain what the Mishnah is saying. Rabbi Yanni said it is not in our hands to understand neither the tranquility of the wicked nor the tribulations of the righteous. You ever wonder, why is your life so tough, but this wicked person over here got millions and billions of dollars and living up like a king, and he doesn't deserve anything he has? Then you see these righteous people that are struggling. And we're not talking about regular people that struggle. We're talking about people that deserve to win the lottery 10 times over. And yet they're poor and with poverty and they struggle in sickness and everything. So it's just a question. So right here it's saying it's not our job to understand why it is. And we shouldn't even focus on that. But going further, I like this other part. Rabbi Matya ben Charash said, be first to greet every person. That means don't be judgmental, Even if someone might not be so righteous, still greet him and be respectful. That's pretty much common sense to me. But this is wisdom that everyone should take very strongly, and it's be a tail to lions and do not be a head to foxes. So what does this come to teach? What does this come to teach you? Let's see. It's Mishna 15. So, Ein biyadenu loy mishavas harshaim ve'af loy miyi soire hatzadikim. It is not in our hands neither the tranquility of the wicked nor the tribulations of the righteous. Or in our hands the wicked would suffer and the righteous would prosper. But it is not in the hands. But it is in the hands of God, whose calculations are beyond us. Basically, we can't understand why God does what he does. And it's only God to decide what happens. or it is not in our hands means it is beyond our understanding. That's what Bartanura will come to teach us. So Rashi is saying, but it is in the hands of God whose calculations are beyond us, and it's in the Mefarshim. Whereas Bartanura is saying it's beyond our understanding. So why the wicked prosper? Alternatively, it is not in our hands means that we do not question it. Midrash Shmuel offers several explanations for this ancient but persistent question, including the following: that the wicked prosper in this world is, in fact, a punishment. They are being rewarded for any good they have done, so that they will not receive any reward in the next world, where they will be punished. The righteous are likewise suffering in this world for any misdeeds they have committed, so that they will receive only reward in the world to come. It is possible that the wicked person is naturally predisposed to evil. Therefore, the one mitzvah that he observes is equivalent to fulfilling all the mitzvahs, for which he is amply rewarded. So, two things about the wicked. One, he gets all the benefits in this world, so he gets nothing in the world to come. And two, even the wicked, they do some good things. So because of the mitzvahs and the good things they do, they reap in the reward in this world. The righteous person, in contrast, may be predisposed to righteousness, and his one transgression is therefore equivalent to transgressing all the prohibitions of the Torah. So for a wicked person, one mitzvah is as if he did everything. And by a righteous person, one sin could be as if he violated the whole Torah. Rejecting exile. Although we have philosophical explanations for perceived injustice, our attitude is not supposed to be one of complacency. Like Abraham, Moses, King David, and all the great Jewish leaders throughout the generations, we are meant to be appalled by suffering and to cry out to God to end it. In regard to our own suffering, we should accept it with unquestioning faith in God. When it comes to someone else's suffering, a person should be concerned for one's fellow being, and they should be upset about it. But when it comes to your own suffering, you should be unquestioning and have faith in God. But when others suffer, our job is not to accept it as God's will, but to cry out to God and ask for an ending of the suffering for our fellow beings. And you can see links in the Hasidic Legacy, page 141 and 142. Hence, an alternative explanation of Rabbi Yanni's teaching. Rabbi Yanni is bemoaning the fact that we have become complacent in our long exile about the injustice that surrounds us. We have become accustomed to it and no longer lament the suffering of the righteous and the flourishing of the wicked. If it would be in our hands, if we would be truly appalled by it and pray to God for an end to the exile, he would answer our prayers, as Isaiah declared. You who speak of God, be not silent. Do not allow him to be silent until he restores Jerusalem and establishes it in glory upon the earth. Midrash Shmuel Me'am laws. That's another interesting point. So the suffering that one goes through, what should he really be doing? On one hand, you're not supposed to be questioning God, why is all this pain going to me? But on the other hand, and I believe the Rebbe would agree with this, we're supposed to specifically question God. Why are we in exile? Ad Mosai enough. We have to yearn for Mashiach every day. Midrash Shmuel offers a very literal reading of Rabbi Yanni's words. God has been kind to us by not giving us the tranquility and material abundance that the wicked enjoy, since it prevents us from becoming overly materialistic and spiritually corrupt. He likewise does not burden us with the extreme suffering that the saintly suffer, knowing that we would not be able to handle such suffering. That's a good point. So we don't have everything that we may want. So that way we're not babies and get materialistic and corrupt. Yet at the same time, we don't suffer like the righteous people of the day, of past generations, because we can't even handle that. Rabbi Mattia ben Charash. When the Romans banned Torah study in the land of Israel, Rabbi Mattia ben Charash left the land together with some of his colleagues. At the port, tears streamed from their eyes, and they tore their garments, declaring, "Living in the land of Israel is equivalent to all the mitzvahs in the Torah." Sifrei Devarim 80. See also the biography of Mishna 11 above. He headed to Rome, where he established a yeshiva, and this is in Sanhedrin 32b, which became the largest yeshiva. And for those that don't know, a yeshiva is a school of learning, usually a Judaic school. So he headed to Rome, where he established a Jewish school, which became the largest yeshiva of his day. And although there were other yeshivas at the time, this was the largest. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai visited Rome, Rabbi Mattia consulted with him on various issues. When he studied Torah, his face shone like the sun. His piety was such that he looked like an angel. He never looked at another man's wife. Once Satan disguised himself as a beautiful woman and tried to attract Rabbi Mattia's attention, but Rabbi Mattia remained steadfast, even enduring great personal sacrifice. Rabbi Mattia's soul was a spark of the soul of Joseph. Oh, if you think about this, it's very similar. Joseph was tested with Potiphar's wife, and she was trying to get him to sleep with her, and Joseph said no. So the same test came by. There was a beautiful woman, and he rejected the temptation of the sin. Rabbi Mattia's soul was a spark of the soul of Joseph, in the Jacob's youngest son. No, second to youngest son, the 11th one. Just as Joseph exemplifies leadership of the Jewish people in exile, Rabbi Mattia also saw his purpose as being a leader in exile. Thus, although Rabbi Akiva maintained his yeshiva in the land of Israel, in Bnei Brak, Rabbi Mattia chose to make a yeshiva outside the land of Israel, and in Rome, of all places, the seat of Esav. Esav, the wicked brother of Jacob, Yaakov. Rabbi Mattia's purpose in doing so was to bring an end to exile by creating a yeshiva in the unlikely place of Rome, a spiritual desert. He hoped to influence Jews who had drifted from Torah and thereby hasten the end of the exile. This is from the Rebbe in Likutei Sichos, volume 16, page 120. And if you think about this, the Rebbeim did the same thing. Instead of just building the 770 and the headquarters of Chabad in Israel, they went to the United States. They went to Brooklyn, and they made the holiest synagogue outside of the land of Israel. So, Have Mikadim Bishloim. Be first to greet. Act humbly and greet people before they greet you, unlike the arrogant who wait for others to greet them. Maharal. Also, when involved in a dispute, be the first to offer peace. In the words of King David, seek out peace and pursue it. This is in the Tehillim, Psalm 34, verse 15. Even if it is fleeing from you, chase after it and catch it. Midrash Shmuel. Kol Adam, every person, even those whom you consider inferior to you. Okay, although if you exile yourself to a place of Torah, you will be a small fish in a big pond, a tail to lions, better to do than to stay in your own town to be a head to foxes. Beheve zanav la'arayos ve'al tehi roish la'shualim. Be a tail to lions, and do not be a head to foxes. Many explanations are given for the dictum. Among them, better to be a humble follower of virtuous men than the chieftain of empty ones. If you will be a tail to lions, consider yourself subservient to the great ones. The Mishna assures you that God will raise you up. So that means if you're listening to the rabbis and the righteous people and you drink in every word they say, you're a follower of the Rebbe, then it will, by doing this, it'll lift you up to the level of a lion. You will become great. And by doing so. So since God raises the lowly to supreme heights, you will not end up being a head of foxes, but rather a head of lions. Midrash Shmuel. So it's better to be the tail of a lion than a head of a fox. And follow the sages and the rabbis and the righteous people. And by doing so, eventually you will become great. The lion embodies strength and therefore alludes to the realm of holiness. The fox embodies craftiness and thus alludes to the mundane. One who feels inadequate in the spiritual realm might say, I will never be a head to lions. So I might as well excel where I can in the mundane realm. Rabbi Mattia therefore tells him, better to be a tail to lions than a head to foxes. Based on Midrash Shmuel. In spiritual matters, always look to those superior to you. Be a tail to lions and aspire to be like them. The fox, however, is known to look behind itself. This is why Samson used them in his attack on the Philistines, tying torches to their tails. For the Philistines reneged on their covenant with Israel. They went back on their word like foxes who look back. Thus, do not be a head to foxes. Do not look back smugly like a fox at those beneath you in the spiritual matters, to feel smug and complacent. Knesset Yisrael citing Tikkun Moshe. Better to live among those spiritually superior to you, even though, by contrast, you appear unworthy, than to live among those spiritually inferior to you, even though, by contrast, you will appear worthy. It's in Likutei Batar, Likutei, citing Rabbi Shlomo Kluger. When down is up. So when a judge was promoted from the court of 23 judges to the Supreme Court of 71 judges, he would go from being the head of the smaller court to being the tail of the greater court. If he would complain, until now I sat at the head, and now I sit at the tail, he would be told, in holy matters we ascend. We do not descend. Baruchos 28a. That's the Talmud. Your descent is in fact an ascent. Until now you were a head to foxes. Now you are a tail to lions. This is what the Rambam in explanation of Sanhedrin 37a. The lion raises its tail above its head. The fox buries its head beneath its tail. Similarly, an honorable person raises up those who are inferior to him. The ignoble person scorns those superior to him and attempts to push them to the ground. This is Rabbi Yosef ben Shoshan. And that concludes Mishna 15 of Pirkei Avos.